Hi, I am Dr. Jennifer Tanner. I am the host of the Run Well Summits, the virtual summits for runners' health. So today we have Heather Lillico with us. She is a registered holistic nutritionist and a yoga instructor. Her focus is on anxiety and how much our diet can have an impact on our mood. So welcome, Heather. Nice to have you on today. Tell us, Heather, you have a bit of a personal experience with anxiety.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. So I became a nutritionist, and how I kind of got into this whole thing is when I was about 19 years old, I started having panic attacks. I was in university at the time, and I remember the first one that I had, I was at a party in university and started to feel this really strange sensation of my heart beating fast and things were going all splotchy and I couldn't catch my breath. And I thought I was dying at the time. And so I locked myself in a bathroom and just kind of slid down the wall and tried to catch my breath and recover. And I didn't really understand what was happening. And after doing some Googling and finding out that I wasn't dying, that it was a panic attack. And so I got really scared of this. Was a terrifying experience. When is the next one going to strike?
Wow, yeah, so that was the first time you'd ever experienced anything like that before?
Absolutely, yeah. It felt like I had just run a marathon, but I hadn't done any exercise. So
Wow.
it was really scary. And so then from that point, I kind of kept fearing, when is the next panic attack going to strike? And all throughout university, I was going through periods of really high anxiety and then deep depression. And I thought, I would sort of have to have one or the other. It was kind of confusing to me that I could have both.
Okay, yeah. Did you feel, you must have felt alone during those times as well?
I mean, yeah, it was something that, and I think especially years ago, it was so heavily stigmatized that I really didn't want to talk about it with any of my friends. And I got a counselor and tried that. So I went plant-based, and it was really when I started incorporating more whole, fresh, real foods into my diet that I saw huge changes in my mental health, and also with my irritable bowel syndrome that I was experiencing too. I was having massive amounts of bloating and heartburn. And by changing up my diet and focusing on a few key lifestyle changes, I saw huge, huge benefits.
Wow, isn't that incredible how our food really can be our medicine?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not
yeah.
something I think that a lot of us about in terms of nutrition. We often think of, okay, I need food to stay alive. Knowledge yet about nutrition and mental health and just how important it is for it.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, how does anxiety affect our physiology? What happens inside us?
So a lot of stuff happening when somebody is feeling anxious. So we have something called our autonomic nervous system, and this is not under our control. It's something that helps us get out of the way of a moving vehicle or run from a lion, and it keeps us alive. And so when we're doing those activities that we need to stay alive for, it activates something called our sympathetic nervous system,
Yeah.
which is our fight or flight response. So that gets our adrenaline going. It brings cortisol in. Now, what happens when somebody has anxiety is that is kind of stuck on. So we are jacked up and on high alert all the time. And so we don't activate our parasympathetic side. That is also called our rest and digest side. So in order for digestion to happen, we need to be in what's called this parasympathetic state. And so
Okay.
it's affecting like kind of every aspect of digestion. So to walk you through it, digestion really starts in the mouth. That's where our carbohydrate enzymes get going. And so if somebody is running from A to B, they're anxious, they're on the move, they're stressed out, they're go, then
Yeah.
then carbohydrate digestion is going to be impacted. And so that you're not going to be chewing as thoroughly with your food, you're not going to be getting as many enzymes there. And then that signal to come down to the stomach to say, hey, get ready, produce stomach acid, that signal doesn't happen.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So interesting how, so you're saying that if you are more in that kind of stressed go, go, go mode, some of your resources will be diverted away from your digestion?
Yeah, yeah. So you're busy being high adrenaline that your body doesn't think it's time to digest food. That's not its
Okay.
priority. The priority is let's keep you alive right now.
Yes.
And so
Okay.
if we follow it through, like, so digestion is going to be affected in the mouth, and then you come down to the stomach. So now this food is coming into the stomach, and if you're not in that parasympathetic state, your stomach acid is going to be reduced. So what that affects is it affects certain mineral absorption. It affects your protein digestion because your enzyme for protein gets activated by stomach acid,
Okay.
and it affects the bacteria. So we have lots of bacteria all around us. There's some on our skin. There's, all in our bad or pathogenic bacteria. And now without as much stomach acid in the body to kill off some of those guys, the bacteria have a chance to replicate and kind of take over.
Okay. So we're losing one of those first line defenses then.
Absolutely, yeah. And then that's
Okay.
an issue because as we make our way down through the small intestine, this is like the main site of food absorption. And um, and as food comes in, now you have a balance of bad bacteria that's like a little too high, and your good bacteria, so this line of good bacteria all along your mucus layer in your intestines. The bad bacteria can kind of get through that layer now and the mucus starts to shrink away and atrophy. And this is when we get conditions like leaky gut.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a lot of studies right now coming down the line on the gut-brain connection and how important that balance between the bacteria can be. So you mentioned that chewing is kind of where our digestion starts.
Mm-hmm.
How important is chewing? How much should we be chewing our food?
So it really depends on the type of food that you're eating, but so chewing is going to be important for, as we said, like getting those enzymes going. It's also a physical breakdown of food, which helps
Yeah.
you break it into smaller parts. So that's important to get the surface area so enzymes can attach to it. It also starts to affect your hunger hormones. And so as you start to chew, your body comes to recognize, okay, I'm getting food. I don't need to be as hungry now. So sometimes people end
Okay.
up overeating if they're not chewing their food thoroughly, and aiming for like 20 to 30 times per bite, I would say, is like kind of a minimum.
Wow. Okay. I think we have a lot of chewing to do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I challenge clients often to try to chew your food 20 to 30 times a bite, maybe even more. If it's something like a raw vegetable like broccoli, you'd probably want to chew upwards of like 40 times. And so I
Wow.
challenge clients, try it out, see how it feels.
Okay. Yes. Challenge for everybody. Chew your food.
Yeah.
How long should it be taking them to eat their meal?
So I suggest as a minimum about 20 minutes for a meal. This gives
Okay.
your body time for your stomach to send signals back up and say, okay, I'm starting to expand now. I'm about full. You can stop eating now. And so
Yeah.
if we override that signal by just shoving food down mindlessly, then our stomach can end up overstretched, and then we feel bloated after a meal.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Now to switch over to that parasympathetic nervous system, is there something else that they could be doing with meals?
Absolutely. So what I'll have clients do often is before you start your meal, just take 5 deep breaths. It's so simple. We all have time to take 5 deep breaths. And when
Okay.
I say deep breaths, I mean belly breaths. So you could even put your hand on your belly and feel that feedback of your stomach being pushed out. And what that does is it stimulates our vagus nerve. And our vagus nerve goes from our brain and comes all the way down. It's sometimes called the wandering nerve because it spreads out so much. And this is like one of our main nerves of our parasympathetic side. So it can help you just calm down and give your body the best chance possible to digest your food.
Okay. Wonderful. What about nutrients? How does anxiety affect our nutrients?
Mm-hmm. So anxiety affects our nutrients in that it's going to have us burn through certain nutrients at a faster rate. So your B vitamins, for example, are like your main energy vitamins.
Yes.
They're being just scrunched up really fast when you're in that anxious state. As well, antioxidants in the body, those are going to be used up very fast as your body tries to prevent all this oxidative damage or damage to cells and cell membranes that could be happening. So those are some of the main ones. As well, minerals we're going to end up losing at a faster rate, and absorption is probably going to be affected because a lot of mineral absorption, for example, like your copper, your magnesium, your zinc, your iron, is influenced by stomach acid. And if we don't have that stomach acid because we're not in that relaxed state, then absorption is going to be affected for those.
So interesting. Like for somebody who may be eating what they think is a healthy meal, they may not be absorbing as much as they potentially could if they've incorporated some of these stress management techniques, some ways to adapt to their anxiety levels.
Yeah, and we know as well that people who have anxiety are chronically found to be low in certain nutrients like magnesium, zinc, omega-3s, really big one, selenium, an antioxidant, and B vitamins. So some nutrients to watch out for.
Yeah, so if you're chronically low, it's a tough place to heal. It's tough to feel better when you're always functioning at a lower level, right?
Absolutely, and that's where nutrition and like real whole foods can play a really big role in getting somebody back up to that baseline. I mean, supplements can have a role as well, but nature has all of these things available to us. It's just, I find kind of the top culprits of anxiety are that someone's blood sugar is unstable. So they're relying too much on like quick processed foods, which perhaps for runners might be relevant that, you know, before you run, you're grabbing something super quick, but maybe it's a more processed item and it's going to have higher amounts of sugar in it.
Yes. Okay. Some of the top food foods that you see.
Sorry, say that again.
What are some of the top food boosting or mood boosting foods that you use?
Yeah, mood boosting foods. So once we've kind of addressed that whole piece with clients of, you know, reducing their caffeine intake, kind of like the easy wins that we know are things that lead to anxiety and we can help reduce. So we've reduced somebody's caffeine, we've reduced their refined sugar and processed carbs. Then we really want to focus on bringing in calming foods for people. So some of my top ones are going to be leafy greens, rich in folate or B vitamin, so great for mood. Pumpkin seeds, such a top one, high in zinc and magnesium. As well, nuts like Brazil nuts, really great. You're going to get a high amount of selenium and also chromium in there. And chromium is like a little bit of a trace mineral that about 90% of us are deficient in. And so really important for balancing blood sugar, one of the keys of managing anxiety. And if we're having a diet that's really high in processed sugar, it can make us excrete chromium at a faster rate. So something that we definitely want to be replacing.
Yeah. Do you have any really cool ways that you've seen people get some of these foods in?
So I'm a big fan of, I always recommend like some sort of Buddha bowl, salad bowl kind of thing, because what a great opportunity to get so many nutrients in at once. So, you know, you can have your bed of leafy greens and switch it up. It doesn't always have to be spinach or kale. You know, there's collard greens, there's arugula, there's watercress, dandelion, like lots of different ones. And then you can throw a whole grain on there. So maybe you've cooked up some quinoa or amaranth or wheat berries or bulgur, like lots of different options. And then what a great opportunity for roasted vegetables piled on there. You can do beets, radishes, so great for liver support.
Delicious.
Peppers, like bright colored, kind of, I tell clients, eat the rainbow and not Skittles, like real whole food. And then I always recommend if you're having a salad or a Buddha bowl of sorts, making the dressing yourself is another really great opportunity to put in. Maybe it's some blended avocado, good, healthy, stabilizing source of
great tip.
Yeah, and then a boost on the top. So this is something like your pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, hemp hearts, chia, toasted coconut, like something that feels, just takes it like a little bit over the top.
Yes.
And one thing that's often kind of overlooked is that the importance of fermented foods. So most of us don't get a lot of fermented foods in the diet, but they're such a great source of these good bacteria. And fermented foods as well can provide GABA to your body. And GABA is our brain's main relaxing neurotransmitter. And so people with anxiety, GABA has plummeted way down, and we want to be able to replace it in the body. So fermented foods like yogurt or kefir or miso or tempeh, like these could all be added into a salad too, or maybe you're having a kombucha drink on the side of your salad.
Yes. So I have actually seen Heather as a client before. And one of the things that stuck with me is Heather asked me to eat sauerkraut. And now I eat sauerkraut. I put a little spoon of it every morning. I put it either beside what I'm eating, like as the side, or I'll put it on to like my spelt toast with some sauerkraut on it. Fantastic. So would that count as a fermented or prebiotic food as well?
Absolutely. Sauerkraut is so great, and I find that clients do love this one. I often recommend it because not only is it for a fermented food, so great, you're getting some good probiotic bacteria in there, it's also a prebiotic food. So it's made of cabbage, and cabbage is a prebiotic food, meaning it's giving you some fiber that's going to feed the good bacteria in your gut. Also, as like an extra bonus, cabbage is rich in something called glutamine, and glutamine feeds the cells in our small intestine, so it helps them stay plump and be that really strong line of defense for our body.
Yes. Oh, I love these tips, Heather. This is like stuff that we can all implement today. So just to recap some of the challenges that you're going to do, you're going to do the Chew Your Food Challenge. So 20 minimum chews, upwards to 40, depending on what type of food it is you're eating. And you're going to take 20 minutes to eat that meal. Set your timer. Time yourself how quickly you're eating it now, and then time yourself with the 20-minute meal. But before you begin, 5 big belly breaths to shift yourself out of that go, go, go state and over into more of a digestive friendly environment. And then revamping your diet with some simple tweaks that Heather's given us. Reduce the caffeine load. Pay attention. Are you having caffeine because you like it or because you need it to survive? Good kind of technique there. If you need it to survive, then you need more nutritional support from those foods, or something else has to be balanced or addressed. The refined sugars, definitely we want to reduce those. That's not going to help anxiety. I have seen patients where I have only reduced their caffeine and sugar, and their anxiety is completely dissipated. So sometimes it is food induced as well as situation, or maybe suffering from some of these nutrient deficiencies as well can induce it. And then some of the other food tips. So the leafy greens being a bit of a base for that Buddha bowl. And for maybe if you don't know what a Buddha bowl is, it's basically like an assortment of different foods into one bowl. Usually there's a leafy green, and Heather mentioned some of those awesome grains that you can be mixing up with there. And then your awesome. Like Heather mentioned, they've got zinc in it. Zinc is a good recovery nutrient that a lot of runners tend to be deficient in as well. We do a test here called the zinc tally test, and we quite often see people are running low on that zinc molecule. And also another symptom might be maybe immune function might be something that comes along with zinc as well, that you're kind of like getting colds and flus. And Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are ones we tend to forget about. We don't eat a ton of Brazil nuts, so popping those on top of any of these Buddha bowls or stir fries, or putting them into a trail mix or whatnot. And then some of those fermented foods. Some of the fermented foods. What are some of those fermented foods?
So some of the fermented foods are sauerkraut, kimchi is another one, miso, so you could do like a miso soup, kefir, yogurt, and people go to yogurt more often, but like there's so many other ones, and different foods are going to have different strains of bacteria, so really good to rotate through and kind of aim for getting like 2 fermented foods a day.
Wonderful. So eat the rainbow, eat the variety, get those fermented foods in. So Heather, if somebody wants more information from you, if they just loved what they heard today, how can they find you?
So you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Heather_Lil, L-I-L. As well, I have a website, heatherlillico.com, and those are probably the best ways to connect with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on today, Heather. I certainly have learned a lot, and my stomach is growling right now. So I am going to head down to Fresh or one of those awesome restaurants and get myself a Buddha bowl.
And are you going to set your timer for food?
And I'm going to set my timer, absolutely, and see how much I am chewing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Bye, Heather.
Bye.